This particular clause is nothing but, in short, if I want to tell you, as we are all from automotive industry, it is nothing but your APQP process, right? As simple as that. But now in standard, as I have told you on day one, right? Now this particular standard, this IETF standard in clause now reference of your APQP process, right? And here for, that too, it is, they have given the reference of APQP and VDA, right? So, for the project management. So those supplying to European companies, they follow that VDA RGA standard, and those who supply to non-European companies, they follow APQP. So this is just a methodology or the reference given in IDF. It does not mean that you should go for APQP only. You need to check the CSR of your customer, what your customer is following or asking the suppliers to follow as far as project management is concerned, right? So first, here the clause is your design and development planning. So first of all, the most important point here is you need to have a design and development process, right? So how are you managing your design and development activities? You need to have a documented process. Vittal Vittal sir, can you just try to re-log in, sir? And select option as remote. I think that could be an issue. You might have selected option as yes, I could not see that microphone symbol. Vittal sir, I could not see the microphone symbol. I would request you to re-log in and select option as remote. Don't select in-person option, select remote options while logging in, while joining the session. Yeah, okay. Coming on to the design and development, right? So first important point here is you need to have a documented process of how do you manage the design and development activities. Now here, we need to understand 2 points. Now those companies who are not design oriented or the designing is not in their scope, right? In that case, the designing clause, right, 8.3, right, design and development, right, product design and development can be excluded. But in any case, right, either you are design oriented or non-design oriented, you cannot exclude process design, right? So process design, manufacturing process design clause cannot be excluded, which is your 8.3.3.2, right? Since you are designing, right, so you have a design center in Chinchwad and you are providing support to all other manufacturing locations, right? So you have both these clauses, right? Design, product design, develop and process design development is applicable, right? Now, here, moving on to the next clause then, right? So when I say after the design and development, process is defined, the first important point here to be taken care of is the planning, right? Planning phase. So, as you all know, what is APQP? APQP is Advanced Product Quality Planning. I hope you are using APQP for program management.
Yes, most of the places, but Honda typically does not want LPQP, they want their own system.
Okay, okay. So, but I'll just throw some light on like APQP. I hope you are using it for, or yeah, you don't have any system for APQP, or you're planning to go for that, or like how is it? How the program management activities are done currently?
Certainly, you can elaborate more. Yeah, thank you. So, sir, we are planning to implement APQP. We are in the process. Yeah.
Okay. But currently, how program management is done, sir? I mean, how it is carried out? Do you have phase system or gate system, or like how is it?
Yes, gate system.
You have gate system, right?
Yeah, gate system.
Okay, okay. Anyways, right? So basically, when I say APQP, it is Advanced Product Quality Planning. It is a recommended tool to support program management, right? So here they have 5 phases basically. First is your design and development, right? Planning, right? Then we have product design and development. Then phase 3 is process design and development. Phase 4 is product and process validation. And phase 5 is your corrective action, implementation, review basically, right? So these are the 5 APQP phases. Now this particular clause 8.3 deals with these particular phases, right? But the standard has not given these clauses in sequence, but the requirements addressed in clause number 8.3 are in line with the APQP requirements. So if you implement APQP, right, manual requirements in your organization, you will be able to suffice all the requirements provided in clause number 8.3, right? Now, so what standard is saying is for program management, you can use APQP or BDA, your RGA standard. Then here now, what standard has given a reference, right? In earlier ISO TS standard, there was no, I would say, reference of design for Six Sigma or DSM, DSA. Vikhal sir, again I would request you to please re-log in because I cannot see your microphone symbol. So please re-log in and select option as remote, sir, please. Is Ravi Shankar sir any question?
It has reached on its own. I managed to log in after 35 minutes of running around sampling.
Okay, okay. Okay, so coming back to the planning requirement, Vishal sir, when I say gate points, these gate points are basically what I have told you is the traditional methodology, right? So these are basically, when I say 5 phases, you can call it as gate, right? So it depends on the organization what methodology they implement or use, right? So it can be a gate, you can call it as a gate system or you can call it as a phase system. It depends. Uh, Lee, as your question is in Vietnam, get product transfer from India, but not get all the documents related to APQP for the product. Okay, Arvind sir is saying we'll explain this later. Okay, let me complete, let's finish this clause.
I will just add it. See, I
Yeah,
think we
sure.
have a very big confusion on how we work. And I'm telling this very clearly. The point is, till the time design and development happens and the process is established, everything is done in India, then there is a method of transferring the line to Vietnam.
Okay.
What happens? The entire process is established in every equipment and entire line gets transferred to it.
Okay.
So Vietnam can never control APQP documents. Vietnam as a remote production facility will always have process FMEA, process control plan, local work instructions, local formats, which will be supporting the production.
Yes. So to add to this, what they can have is they can have the PPAP documents from your plant.
Yes, exactly. That is what. So when the line transfer happens, all these documents should go to Vietnam.
Yes.
There are there are few labs to say that is why Vietnam is not a certified unit.
Okay. Yeah, so they can, Lee, you can get the PPAP documents instead of APQP. Now, look here, my point here is many of the people, I mean, many of the organizations have this myth that PPAP documents are produced first and then the APQP documents. Now, I need to tell you very clearly in this common forum that APQP is the father of all code tools, right? APQP will tell you which code tool to be used in which phase, right? Like for example, in your phase number 2 and phase number 3, your FMEAs will be used. In phase number 4, which is product and process development, your MSAs and SPC and your PPAP document will be used. So APQP will tell you, right, which code tools are to be used in which phases. And lot of companies I have seen, they prepare a PPAP document first, and based on PPAP documents, they do the reverse engineering and reproduce or generate the APQP documents. But it should be like from APQP documents, all the PPAP documents should get generated. Please make a note of this point. Right? So, when I was, coming back to the planning stage, what ITF standard says is, now here, what you can do is, here now they have given a reference of DFM and DFA, right? So what is DFM? It is designed for manufacturability and DFA is designed for assembly. So it is like when you are performing a planning, right? When you are doing a design and development planning, what you should do is you should also include your suppliers, right? If required, your customers, right? and your manufacturing team or your process engineering team. I don't know, what do you call? You call it as ME or process engineering or like manufacturing. Yeah. But you should involve this team basically during the planning stage. The reason behind is when you are basically conducting, yeah, okay, sir. Thank you. Sir. So when you are doing a planning, right, when you are actually going in the product development phase, right, you should seek a support, help from manufacturing engineering. The reason behind is they are the ones who know in and out of the process, right? So if in case you have an inquiry wherein you get a certain tolerance limit or a specification which may not be feasible in current manufacturing condition, you can take and help a support and expert advice as to which process, which instrument, which equipment can be used to achieve this particular tolerance so that this manufacturing team can provide you a value added input in order to ensure that particular inquiry is accepted, because it is a concept, like when I say design and development, it is a concept of concurrent engineering, right? You must have heard this concept says that an impact on one activity will have an impact on the other activity, right? It is just like your yin and yang theory, right? So you all might be knowing yin and yang. These they are Japanese Adam and Eve, right? So this theory says that if there is an impact on yin, right? If there is any change in yin, that will have an impact on yang. So this particular APQP concept is similar to that. Like for example, we have product and we have process, right? If we have any impact on the product, we validate our process, we verify our process, right? And if there is any change in the process, right, we validate or verify our product. So product and process depend on each other, right? So while going for a development, right, the product and process development should go together. It should go hand in hand. It is not like first you develop a product and then you develop a process, because if you follow this approach, it will be too late for you then to understand if that particular product moves into the manufacturing, and during manufacturing, if you are not able to produce that particular specification, that particular part, right, it will be too late for you to launch the product, right? And that will be I don't think then you will be able to ensure the product is launched in the market, because what will happen, this will impact the material required date which is expected by your customer, right, as per the PO released by him. So while doing the planning, you ensure that it is a cross-functional team approach. There is a common consensus, right? Identify the program manager, identify your team, identify the expertise you need as far as the team members are concerned. Are there any special processes? Do you need a team member from your supplier? Do you need a support from your customer? Do you need a support from the outsourcing parties or agencies, if there are any in this, right, your project management? So this is what you need to ensure while you perform the design and development planning. So, Hemant, there is a question, what should be the method for communicating customer-specific requirement and at which stage? Hemant sir, this is, you want the communication from your customer or do you want to communicate the CSR to your suppliers? Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, these are customer specific requirements related to that specific product. Some customer wants IMDS, ROHS certification or GIDS requirement, or there are some hazardous requirements. So, how this should be considered or taken into consideration at the stage of IPQP?
Sir, look, this is, I mean, the point to be noted here is if there are like your global OEMs, right? For example, Ford or General Motors or Fiat, you can find their CSRs on their website or on IATF website, right? This is first point.
Correct.
Second point, what you can do is during the inquiry stage, when you get an inquiry, right? When you are at the review stage, you can ask your marketing team to get the CSR from the customer. Now, the clause number 8.2, which I have told you, right? This is nothing but which I have told you, determining the requirements, right? So when I say determining the requirement is first you need to determine what are the requirements from the customer, and if there are any gaps as a manufacturer, if you say that, okay, there are some requirements which need to be added by the customer, but they have not mentioned. So what you can do is, in turn, you can, in your feasibility comments, you can mention that these requirements also need to be considered, as this plays a very important role as far as product performance or the process performance is concerned, right? And when you review the feasibility study without CSR, I would recommend you should not review the inquiry. Consider, because what will happen, or there should be a common consensus, right, with you and the customer that, okay, in the meantime, please share the inquiry with us, right? We will share the CSR maybe in some time, and then if there are any changes, any comments, we can look back again on the inquiry and maybe we can review the inquiry once again. So that can be done. But I would request you all that whosoever is your OEM or your customer, right, please ensure all the latest CSRs are available with you, because this look, for IETF, I'll tell you once again, customer is God, right? Apart from IETF standard requirements, you also need to ensure all these CSRs are implemented. That's the reason why yesterday also I have told you in clause number 7.5, where the quality manual we have, like our quality manual we have discussed, one of the important documents in your quality manual is CSR versus process, right? It could be matrix, it could be list, it could be table. So you need to ensure all the CSRs of your customer are available with you without fail.
No, actually, the purpose asking this question actually what presently we are facing some challenges here.
Okay.
We develop, we are into the purchase and we develop the product, and then suddenly we came to know that there are the customers with some IMDS or ROHS requirements are there.
Okay.
You know, the ROHS, once you develop the product, you cannot go for the ROHS. Because
You need to see the
have to take care of developing the product. That you will have to select material which is going to fit your ROHS.
You have to start from designing. Yes, right.
That's why I asked this question. Means how we can capture all these things at that before releasing drawings for development of.
Look, I'll tell you one point. There are some questions, right? Yeah. Just give me a moment, Arvind sir. I'll give you an opportunity to speak. I just want to clear one point. Look, when we sign off a manufacturing feasibility study, right? It does not mean that manufacturing study is sign off only mean that the product or the process is feasible. It is when you sign off a feasibility, it is right from incoming till the dispatch stage. When you sign off a feasibility, you give a commitment that your company is capable enough or competent enough to even dispatch a product, right? So you have considered all the packaging requirement, all the preservation requirement, all the labeling requirement, all the manufacturing requirement, all the product performance requirement, it could be durability testing, it could be physical testing, it could be chemical testing, it could be anything. So when I say review does not mean that you are able to manufacture a product. It is considering from the stage that is from incoming to the final stage or the like what I would say, the dispatch stage. So, if you refer APQP, they have given one feasibility, team feasibility commitment format wherein they have given 3 options. First, whether the product is feasible without any changes. Second, whether the product is feasible but with additional or recommended changes. And third, whether the product is not feasible. So, if possible, you can refer that particular feasibility format. There they have given all the necessary inputs which are to be considered while conducting a feasibility study, right? What is your run act rate? Whether your process is capable or not? Do you have the material handling facility? Right? Do you have what is your current manufacturing process capability, and also these are some of the requirements which are met. Right? Yes, Arvind sir, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, what I understood what Hemant sir has asked. See, it's a very practical, again, when I try to interact on these kind of things, there are some practical problems that I have seen and I right now also face. See, if you look at the press, you forget the standard for 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And let us all keep the standard on one side. What practically happens is, there is a running product on any vehicle. Vehicle OE manufacturer will redesign a product, maybe make it more stylish, make it more efficient, maybe make it cheaper. Then he will talk to his supplier. Again, we'll keep star also aside, otherwise you will not be able to understand what I am trying to explain. So what they will tell to the front face of the tier 1 supplier, you see, this is a running product A, you just, this little dimensional change, make this little hole bigger, add some little chromate, some fitment issue, and give me 10 samples per trial. Now the guy who is on the front page, he will do it. If you go to the customer will say, okay, give me a bigger lot. Now what happens is, in the initial phase of the first step, complete feasibility is not ever done. I've seen a number of companies, nobody does. They fill the record date. What happens when we start doing the feasibility and for making a bigger batch, maybe with reset up of line, maybe with better instruments and all the feasibility things, whatever you just shared, they'll come into the. What happens in that particular stage, Hemant Nigam Sir's point comes into picture. Where to communicate the requirements of customer specific the supplier. And there might be cases where we have new suppliers to be added, new tools to be developed. We might have submitted by 2 room samples from office. So just to have more input from you, how to practically communicate customer specific requirements to the supplier and at what stage? You could just give us some more input on this. And anybody else wants to add to my thoughts, please add. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question too.
Vishal Giteji, you can also add because I think you know how these things work at your end.
Basically, when the product starts, it categorizes into two different types. First, it is if there is a complete development or if there is a small change in requirement. What we initially do, we make the samples and communicate, and we had done some feasibility in a R&D. And based upon that, these requirements we communicated to other channels. If we consider the example now, right now what Hemant sir has given the IMDS, if we go as per standard only, in clause number 8.2.4, there may be a scope of changes in the design requirement by the customer. And once these changes are done and has to be communicated to R&D or any department who is dealing with the customer, that to be communicated to the next level or the process owner who has to work on that, we communicate and get the input details. So I think the changes can be at any stages, whether the product in production or the initial development or at the pilot stage. We have to address the bare minimum requirements of the standard and how we can take it forward. So that we can do. Here, if IMDS requirement for this particular example, all the products are at the pilot stages. After the pilot batch, they have to approve the mass production drawing. And during that approval of mass production drawing, customer required this IMDS compliance, and based upon that only they are going to approve our products. So I think only in that case we have to work with our best effort to satisfy customer and get the all input details. What I feel.
Look, what you have said is correct, but my point here is you need to strengthen your input check sheet, right? You need to strengthen your team feasibility commitment sheet, because what happens is here where the product expertise or process expertise come into picture. Now, when I say, now when I'm going through this particular requirement, right, of this 8.3, there is a clause for product design input, right? And there is a clause for process design input. So while considering this, while reviewing the inquiry, you need to ensure, this is where clause number 8.2, in this 8.2 I have told you that determining the requirements and review the requirements. Now, if customer does not tell you what is the statutory or a regulatory requirement, it is your duty, it is your job to ensure whether they have by mistake have not told you, or is there like, I mean, they are specifically, there is no specific statutory or regulatory requirements. And if you feel like your product needs to have this specific requirement related to statutory and regulatory, it is your duty, it is your job to inform to customer that this was not mentioned in your inquiry, but this is applicable for this type of product for the better maybe performance or durability or maybe process performance, right? So that's the reason why in clause number 8.2 there is one clause that changes to requirements, right? So whatever you have committed initially during the feasibility study, if you feel like there are any changes happening, right, this is before actually going to product realization, right? Whatever now I am talking is before the product has gone into a mass production. This is all during the pilot stage or during the prototype stage, right? So if there are any changes before customer approves that product, so if there are any changes happening in the product, right, you need to review those changes and communicate those changes and make it and make the changes accordingly before actually going into the mass production. This is what you should like actually be doing.
Yeah, we are doing like this.
Yeah, so that is what is the right approach which you should follow.
And only
When we sign off a feasibility, now what customers are doing, OEMs are doing, they are now signing off the feasibility along with the suppliers, right? So there is advanced quality, what you could say, the engineer or the program manager from the customer side, and there is a program manager from supplier side. They both sign off the TRSO, and then the internal feasibility is carried out, right? Tata Motors now have started from last three, four years. There was no process, right? They have a system of TRSO, technical review sign off, right? There are, if I'm not mistaken, there are more than 40 points in that TRSO sheet, which they review with their suppliers. And they have to follow all those TRSO points while they go on to the production or the process development or product development stage. So now we need to change our approach, right? Whatever the traditional methodology we might be following it, now we need to actually so that's the reason why I would request you all to please go through the APQP requirement, right, the manual requirement, all your queries, right, which are currently, which I could see, right, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, will get resolved if you implement this particular tool in your organization.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Any queries?
And again, one point it is when the changes to be communicated or any change,
it is whenever the product at any stage that can be happen. So only thing we can consider that it is once we get awareness or we get the requirements of the change, we should communicate it. I think we can work like that.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but yesterday I told you 4 types of changes, right? One was your document change, right? One was your engineering change, right? Where maybe the engineering change request will be raised by the customer or it can be done by you, right?
Yes.
Okay, as a supplier. Third is your product change, right, where you change the design of the product altogether, right? And fourth is your process. So if there are any changes in the process happening, okay? Now, here, before the product is approved, okay? So if you are doing PPAP, right? So before PTR, right, there is no point in communicating the customer about the changes because that product is not yet approved by the customer. Okay? So you do any changes internally during the PTR when customer will come in-house, right, to your location. He will verify all the requirements, right? But here the change communication is important as far as your internal cross-functional team or the program management team is concerned, because they should know what are the changes happening internally, because there was a sign-off done by that team, and if you are changing anything, there could be process concern, there could be a purchasing concern, there could be a planning concern, there could be a maintenance concern. So you need to have a strong communication system. Look, when you get an NC or any non-conformity, right, that is purely because of the communication gap. It is not what you do or like what you develop or what you implement. It is purely because of the communication gap. To improve this communication gap in your organization, I can like assure you that you will be able to overcome all these issues.
Yes.
It's based on my practical experience, I'm telling you. And after any change, right, after the PSW is signed off, right, it is what PPAP manual says is you need to notify your customer for any change you do internally, right, except for manpower change or except for your perishable tools, right? There is, I mean, you have to communicate to the customer, you have to notify to the customer except for these 2 changes. You do change to, like even if you change the position of your machine, you change the raw material, you change the source, you change the machine, you change the specification, you change the environment, right? Apart from manpower change and perishable tool change, there is no point that you should not communicate. I mean, you should notify your customer. This is given in the PPAP manual, right? Let customer decide whether he needs PPAP or not. But as a supplier, it is your responsibility to communicate, to notify to the customer whatever changes you are doing internally. This is what the manual says. Right now, you all know what the organization do, right? So I will not go into that, but what is expected, right, by the manual or by the standard, my job is to tell you what is to be done, right?
Yes.
Whether to do it or not, it is again up to the organization.
Yeah. What you said correctly, the communication has solved most of the things, And additional to that, just from my side, one point is understanding of the requirement correctly. That if you work on these two factors, we will cover most of the issues on the work.
Point is very valid, but here my point is whosoever is selecting the program management team, right? The team selection here plays a very important role, right? Because when you say you're working on a program management, every day at least you have to spend 2 to 3 hours on that project. Right? And I have seen people what they do at the end of the day, the FMEs or control plan is prepared by one person, right? And the cross-functional team signs it off, right? They don't even review, they don't even bother what is mentioned in there. That is like, because I was used to do, I used to do this. I used to prepare all APQP documents, PPAP documents, SPC, MSA independently, and I used to take the sign of other department representatives. This is what, I'll share what whatever the experience got, right? I'll not put the quote of like other companies, but I'll tell you this is what is practically happening. Right? So unless and until you come out of this, right, there will, the program management will be like this only. You will keep on delaying the project. And you all know what is the reason behind it. But still you can't help it out.
Can you just give us more guidance how to strengthen this point practically then?
You should have a strong review mechanism, sir. You should work on, if you have a gate system, let us say, like if you have, like you are working on 5-gate system, in that particular gate also you should have a micro gates.
Okay.
Right? For example, if the testing is done, just review what was the outcome of the testing, right? If the requirements is identified, let us say, for example, tooling or new equipment or infrastructure identification is done, just review, right? Review your DVPNR. I believe you are prepared this design verification plan and your review document.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you should have a strong review mechanism. That is what I would I would tell you in order to improve it. Improve your program management.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So now moving on to